Okay, sir. Thank you. Hello and very good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Faculty of Pharmacy, Parul University, I, Dr. Bindya Chauhan from School of Pharmacy, welcome you all in the today's webinar. For this webinar, we have a very special, renowned personality with us. It's a Dr. Ashish Singh Parihar. It's a great pleasure to introduce Dr. Ashish Singh Parihar to all of you. Sir has completed the B Pharm from the SRM, from the IES College of Pharmacy from the Bhopal, MP in the 2011. Sir has done the Master of Pharmacy in the Pharmacy Practice School from the SRM College of Pharmacy from the Tamil Nadu. And Sir has also completed the PhD from the Kelly University from the Belgaum. Sir has also worked as a lecturer in the TVM College of Pharmacy from the Karnataka, and he's been enrolled in the various like the academic activities and been a lecturer to the PharmD students. Sir has also worked as an assistant professor in the Kelly College of Pharmacy in the Belgaum. He's been enrolled in the psychiatric pharmacy practice to the mainly pharmaceutical students and the interns. And he's been also enrolled in various collaborative research projects as a project guide, especially in the psychiatrics, and has been guide to various master's students, and also participated in various anti-discrimination cell as a convener, and also has organized various health camp organized by the Dr. Prabhakar Kore Hospital and the NTM ICMR, and also being a guest lecture series as a resource person in various QIPs and the CMEs. Sir is currently working as a medical writer in the CBCC Global Research Ahmedabad in the Gujarat. He's been mainly enrolled in the clinical study document part, where he's working on the concept sheet, the protocols, ICF, the clinical research format, and the clinical study reports. He's been also closely associated with the business development and the concerned directors and HOD for the delivery of high quality scientific and regulatory compliant compliance sheet to the sponsors. He is also enrolled in the preparation of the clinical study reports in compliance to applicable all the regulatory guidelines and the studies associated documents like the ICF and the CRF. These are the clinical research reports. And also coordinating with the various translational agencies for the study specific like documents, and also preparing various clinical study reports and the study reports as per the regulatory travel, and also preparing the manuscript for the peer-reviewed journals and articles, abstract, the slide presentation, and also presentation. And he's been also being the part of the various national and international conference level. So I heartily welcome you, sir, for the session on introduction of clinical trials and scope of the medical writer. Now I'm requesting the Dr. Ashish Singh Parihar to begin the session.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm just going to start the session, today's session. So prior to start the session, I request to everyone kindly mute yourself like during the presentation. If you have any query or question, so you can ask at the question answer session. So I'll just start my presentation.
Thank you, sir. At the end of the session, if any participant having any doubt or the question, you guys can write in the chat box. We will answer that. Thank you, sir. Over to you now.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Is it visible right now?
Not yet, sir.
Oh, just a minute. Now is it visible, ma'am?
It is, sir. Yes, it is visible now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So today I'm going to present about the clinical trial and scope of medical writing and clinical research. This is a very, very important aspect over here. So before starting my presentation, I want to know, is anybody have any idea about the clinical research? What is the clinical research and why is it important? Any student have any idea about it? Okay. Let's start my presentation. So, whenever the clinical research word has come, so one thing has come in our mind: what is the clinical research? Why is it very, very important? And from where is it started? So there are many agencies are there those have a different definition of the clinical research. Like National Institute of Health have a different definition of clinical research, and ICHGCP, like International Conference of Harmonization Good Clinical Practice, have a different definition of the clinical trial. So here, basically, what is the clinical trial? So, as per the NIH, research that directly involve the human participants or person or group of the people that use material for the human, such as their behavior and sample of their tissue. The thing is that simply researching on the human participant, that is the clinical research as per NIH. But if we'll go through the definition of good clinical practice, it's well defined very properly as per the ICH-GCP E6R2. The clinical research is any investigation in the human subject intended to discover or verify the clinical, pharmacological, and pharmacodynamic effect of the investigational product. So over here, the investigational product is nothing but that is the study drug, like or whatever drug or new. Sometimes we also refer as a new chemical entities which we are using for the clinical trial. Okay, to identify any adverse reaction to the investigational product. Adverse drug reaction, sometimes we also used to call the side effect of the drug. Okay, to uh, to study the ADME of the investigational product. ADME means, absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion of the drug, with the object of extracting the safety and efficacy. Over here, the word has come safety and efficacy, which is the very important aspect of safety or efficacy, because our complete trial works on the safety and efficacy of the drug. Safety related to the adverse drug reaction, and efficacy how effective that drug is. So that is the main aspect of the clinical trial, and this is a short definition of the clinical trial. So as I said, wherever you'll go, you will get different definition of the clinical trial. So before starting the clinical trial, what is the phases of clinical trial? Let just talk about the history of the clinical trial. The history of the clinical trial is very old. Okay, it has started from the time of Avicenna, from the time of Cleopatra. I think you might heard the name of Avicenna and Cleopatra. Uh, Anybody aware about the Avicenna? What he said? Avicenna just said that, like, human body and animal body both are the different. Okay, so it's not like this. If we are doing any study on the animal, that will be same effective on the human also. Okay, so in this term, that history of the clinical trial has started from the Dr. Edward Jenner. Okay, who first time introduced the uh, treatment of the smallpox. For preventing the smallpox, he inoculated the cowpox to the uh, children, and it assessed the effect, whether is it working or not, and successfully he assessed the effect. Same like this, James Lind, who's the very famous doctor. James Lind, he did the trial on the scurvy. Okay, basically that is the British troop. Sometimes they also called like lemony troop. So over here, Dr. James Lind, what he did, he prepared, like he made it, the whatever the patient was suffering with the scurvy. Okay, so he divided the patient in the three or four group. In one group he gave apple cider, another group nutmeg cider, and another group he gave lemon and oranges, and another group he used to give apple, or fifth group he used to give only just sea water. And he assessed the effect, whether, like, how many patients are getting cured. Okay, in the end he got the result that, like, patient those are administered with the lemon or orange, they cured properly, rather than another group of person. That was the first type of clinical trial what he did on the marine troop. Then apart of this, lots of another studies were there. Okay, so we can say कि जो कि बदनाम है clinical trials के लिए. Okay, sometimes, like, you might heard about the Tuskegee study. Okay, that is the longest study in the American history. Okay, approx 40 to 50 year that study duration was. Or over there, in that particular study, they performed this study on particular black or negro males. Okay, so in one group, in placebo group, they appointed all the negro males, and the rest of treatment group they appointed the white males. Okay, and they did the study on that. So definitely that study was the completely racist, because they not did the proper randomization. And in placebo group they administered only the negro males, black males. Okay, so because of this, the many participants of the study were died. Apart of this, you might have heard about the Nazis medication. Okay, Nazis did lots of trial on the Jewish people. They simply catch the Jewish people and they imprison them, and after that they tried different gases and different medication and chemical on the Jewish population. And in the end of the World War II, like one code was there that we used to call Nuremberg trial. Under that Nuremberg trial, they introduced the Nuremberg code. That is the 10 code were there. Okay, which that particular Nuremberg code talks about the informed consent procedure, which is the very important. Or today we are also going to discuss about the informed consent procedure. What is the informed consent? Why is it very important? And how informed consent deal with the patient safety. Or another, the worst trial was the thalidomide disaster. Might be everyone aware about the thalidomide disaster, what had happened over here. Okay, so from where that clinical research has started. Okay, basically it started from the drug research or drug development. This is a particular phase of the drug development. Okay, so over here, drug research, basically over here, first of all, we perform the in silico study or pharmacognostic study. Okay, then once we find that yes, the particular structure, particular drug moiety is effect, then we perform the preclinical study. I think pharmacology people are well versed with the preclinical studies. Okay, so over here in the preclinical study, we perform on the mice, rodents, then dogs and horses. And over here we check the toxicology of the drug, whether what is the toxicity of the drug, whether is it a carcinogenic or not, whether is it a mutagenic or not, and what is the systemic toxicology, and what is the effect on the fertility of the male and female animals. Okay, once that particular new chemical entity, basically I should call new chemical entity, once that new chemical entity pass all the preclinical terms or like trials, then after that we jump for the clinical trial. Okay, because in the clinical trial we enroll the human subject. Whenever the enrollment or of human subject will be there, that is the clinical trial. Okay, so we have all the data, will submit it to the FDA or a particular regulatory agency. I should say particular regulatory agency of the country. Then after that, we'll start the clinical trial. Basically, clinical trial contains the 4 different phases: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Okay, so phase 4 we also used to call post-marketing surveillance. So yes, we'll start with the phase 1 study. Dr. Bindya, can you confirm, am I audible or not?
Audible, sir?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, thank you. Yeah. So we'll start with the phase 1 study. Basically, that phase 1 study we also used to call human pharmacology study. Such type of study will perform in the small group of patient, and over here we check whether that does it do anything or not. Okay, so here as per the medical writer, today I want to explore the medical writing. So what we look in this particular phase 1 study. So over here, our first of all, our objective is to assess the tolerance. Okay, I think pharmacology people are well versed with this particular terminology, tolerance. What is the tolerance? Because they used to perform the LD50 value on the mice, and they used to check the tolerance of the drug, like till how much dose they can tolerate. Okay, then over here, another object is to define or describe the PK and PD, pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic of the drug. Then explore the drug metabolism and drug interaction. Basically, this all things we perform in the phase 1 study. Okay, so some of the study examples are there, like dose tolerance study, single and multiple dose PK and PD study. So as I said, the single and multiple dose. Single dose, like we used to give the single dose of the drug, and we want to check whether that particular drug is tolerable or not, or whether that particular dose is tolerable or not. Then after that, we perform the multiple dose PK study. So means like today we gave the drug, and after that, after 1 week, basically it's depend upon the like half life of the drug. Then after that, drug interaction study. Then we jump to the once that complete result has obtained. After that, we'll jump to the phase 2 study. Basically, that phase 2 study is the therapeutic exploratory study. As you can see, previously the patient number was a little bit less, approx 20 to 100. So in phase 2, it has improved and it's approx 100 to 500. So over here, basically, we look the therapeutic exploratory, whether does it work or not, whatever the drug is there for the particular indication. Because definitely, if we search any new chemical entity, we want to check in particular disease condition or any particular indication, like whether this particular drug is effective on diabetic patient or not. Okay, so over here our objective will be like explore the use of the target indication, as I said, indication. Then estimate the doses for the subsequent study. Doses of the subsequent study, like will assess the dose whether we are getting the PD or pharmacodynamic or particular good effect at that particular dose or not. Okay, in the phase 1 we got it. Then after that, in phase 2 we apply, we'll check the dose. Okay, for the subsequent study, especially for the phase 3 trial, which is the main or important trial for any study, and to provide the basis confirmatory study design, endpoint, methodology. Okay, so basically some of the example of such type of study, like early trial, a relative short duration and well defined narrow patient population using the surrogate pharmacological endpoint or clinical measures. Over here, one word has come, pharmacological endpoint. Okay, will be the HbA1c. Okay, over here, our pharmacological endpoint will be the HbA1c, that is the glycosylated hemoglobin, and FBS, RBS, PPBS. Okay, that could be our pharmacological endpoint, means how much improvement we got for the patient treatment. Then after that, dose exploration study also performed in the therapeutic exploratory trial, and or we also used to say phase 2 trial. Then phase 3 trial has come, which is the most important trial. Once if your drug passed that phase 3 trial, then you can market the drug okay, at particular country where you perform the trial or where you perform the study. Okay, basically most of study, approx 70% of the new chemical entity passed in the phase 1 trial, or in the approx 50% in passed in the phase 2 trial, but only 25 to 30% new chemical entity passed in the phase 3 trials. Okay, so that phase 3 trial we also used to call therapeutic confirmatory trial. Okay, what's the mean of therapeutic confirmatory? Means whether is it giving confirm effect or not for the particular indication of the drug. Definitely this study is the longest study, approx it may take 4 to 6 years, and the patient population is also very large. Okay, like 1,000 to 3,000, and sometimes it could be 1,000 to 10,000 patient. Okay, depend upon the different regulatory agency requirement, because FDA have a different requirement, European EMA. Okay, European medical agency have a EMA have a different requirement, and visa have a different requirement, even though CDSO or Indian government regulatory agency is a different requirement. Basically nowadays we also call CLA, Indian Regulatory Agency, Central Licensing Authority, CLA. So the objective of this particular study is the therapeutic confirmatory, or how well does it work. Okay, so over here our main objective will be like demonstrate the confirm efficacy, means that particular drug is effective or not, or new chemical entity is effective or not. Then stabilize the safety profile in term of lab efficacy. Okay, whether patient have any, like patient taking new chemical entity, whether that new chemical entity cause any side effect related to the heart or anything else. Okay, and provide the adequate basis of the assessment or the benefit risk related to the supporting license. Then estimate the dose response relationship. Okay, so definitely this trial is a very large trial. Comparative study we perform over here. Okay, comparative study means what? One side will choose the control, another side will choose the test. Okay, and we'll compare the test and control. What is the effect of the drug? And in the end, phase 4 study, that is the therapeutic use study, or sometimes we also used to call post-marketing surveillance study. As I said, once if we clear the phase 3 study, then after that we can market the drug in the market in particular country. Okay, then after that we perform the phase 4 study. Phase 4 study is a post-marketing study. Over here we used to check the side effect of the drug through the help of pharmacovigilance studies. Okay, so this is a flow chart of the clinical trial process, how that clinical trial start and from where is it end. Okay, so that clinical trial start from the protocol writing or IB or ICF drafting. Okay, so as a regulatory medical writer, my main work is the protocol writing, ICF writing, and IB writing. A part of another document also involved over here. Okay, once like your protocol writing has completed, then after that we start the selection of the investigator, because principal investigator or site is the very important where we want to perform the studies. Okay, then once it completed, then after that we apply for the regulatory and ethical approval. Regulatory approval, definitely in India, as I said, we have a regulatory DCGI. CDSCO is the regulatory authority in India if we want to apply over here. And ethics committee, basically institutional ethics committee at the particular institution, might be in Parallel University, you may have an institutional ethics committee for the clinical trials. And same like different hospital have their own institutional ethics committee from where we want to conduct the study or trial, where we have to apply for the ethics approval. Okay, once we get after getting the ethical approval or regulatory approval from the particular regulatory agencies, we start the trial. Okay, the trial has started with the site initiation visit. Site initiation visit is nothing but is the training of the site staff or investigator, principal investigator. So who can be the principal investigator? Anybody have any idea? Who can be the principal investigator for any clinical trial? Is anybody have an idea? Principal investigator? Who can be the principal investigator? Okay, so principal investigator is the person who initiate the clinical trial. Okay, or definitely the principal investigator must have a MD or MBBS degree, or they must have a registration in MCI, Medical Council of India. Okay, after the training, in the site initiation visit, we recruit the patient or subject. Okay, after that we start the monitoring of the subject, or monitoring the clinical trial, like how many patients they have recruited. Okay, whatever the effect of the drug, everything we monitor and we enter this on the databases. Okay, so different company have a different database. Like sometimes they used to use as a eCleon, ECRF software, Medrio, or different softwares. Okay, In the end, after collecting the data, in the end, we prepare the statistical analysis and we report it to the sponsor. So, as I said, investigational product, well, although I've already defined what is the investigational product, there's nothing but that is the new chemical entity or study drugs. Okay, so as per the definition of ICGCP, a pharmaceutical form of any active substance or placebo being tested or used as a reference in a clinical trial is to call investigational product. So, what makes clinical trial different from the standard care? Okay, so what is the standard care and what is the clinical trial related care? Okay, standard care is nothing but whatever care we got in the hospital. Okay, like if we are suffering from any ailment, okay, like cold and cough or anything else. So, what we'll do? We'll definitely go to the hospital, we'll visit to the doctor, and will tell, sir, we are suffering with this problem. They'll give medication or whatever the treatment they will do. That used to call standard care. Okay, but definitely clinical trial is totally different with the standard care. Why? Because in the clinical trial, first of all, human subject involved. Then after it, intervention is there, and over here we compare your test, your intervention with the control group, means standard care. Okay, like this way, your clinical trial is totally different with the standard care. Okay, and this all the point we have to incorporate in the protocol, like how we have to proceed, what we have to do. Okay, when we have to give the medication. Okay, we are giving medication, what have to do or what not have to do. Yes, we're going to like discuss in the protocol. Okay, so is the clinical trial is good or not? You just decide. Okay, is seeing this all the study which is the very important for the human era. Okay, like discovery of the penicillin by the Alexander Fleming. Everyone know why is it very important, how effective it was during the World War II. Okay, so I'll just directly come to the medical writing. What is the medical writing? So medical writing is the particular procedure of the scientific documentation by the specialized person. Okay, for the doctor or scientific community. Okay, basically medical writing involves the creating well-structured scientific documents. Okay, when we talk about the scientific documents, so what could come in the scientific documents? Definitely papers, publications, protocols, new, like health report, patient information leaflet, prescribing information, journals, okay, and health related news. Everything comes under the medical writing scope. Okay, so type of medical writing. Okay, so there are two type of medical writing are there. One is the regulatory writing, and another one is the medicational education writing. Okay, so sometimes that educational medical writing we also used to call scientific writing. Okay, nowadays many CROs are there or many companies are there. They have a different department, scientific writing department. Okay, so that's basically the main work of the medical writer or regulatory medical writer is to prepare the protocol and is to prepare the study reports along with the ICF investigation voucher and lots of documents. Where in the educational medical writing, we used to prepare the science and literatures, articles, medical journal, article for the nurses, physician, or pharmacist. Okay, preparing the slide for the CMEs, continuous medication education, and all. Okay, so here we'll start with the protocol. Okay, because as I have a short of time. Okay, so I'm just going a bit fast. So we'll discuss about the protocol. So what is the protocol? Basically, protocol describe all the things. It involved the background, objectives, what design, methodology, statistical consideration, and organization of the trial. It's a bit similar because almost most of master's student used to prepare the protocol in their second year. Okay, and they start their studies. Okay, so that every protocol has started with the good research question. Okay, so that particular research question should be always be finer. Okay, so finer means what? It should be the feasible. Okay, whether in feasible in term of the time, money, material, and expertise. It should be interesting. Okay, for the research, for the guide. Okay, for the outside world. It should be novel. Novel means what? It should not be duplicate. Okay, then it should be ethical, which is very very important. If your research is not sound, if your research is not ethical, your research can't be approved by the institutional ethics committee, because ethical thing is very very important, or very important aspect is there. Okay, and it should be relevant to the local or national need of the any country. Okay, so that is the alphabetical soup of the protocol. Basic content, the ABCDEF, background, then criteria of the selection, then design of the clinical trial, then ethical and consent approval, examination, endpoint for the studies, and figure of status and flowchart of the activity. Okay, so this is the protocol format. Okay, as per the scientific aspect and administrative aspect. Okay, we'll look any protocol as per the scientific aspect. It contains the title, background, objective, design. Okay, selection of the subject means we are talking about the inclusion and exclusion criteria for any subject. Treatment, efficacy and safety assessment, visit schedule, statistics, and reference. And the administrative aspect will be regulatory approval. As I said, regulatory approval means DCGI or CDSC approval, ethics, institutional ethics committee approval, publication for the particular result. Okay, finance and insurance. If we are enrolling any subject in the particular clinical research or clinical trial, the finance and insurance is very very important aspect. Then monitoring. If you do not do the proper monitoring, your completely trial will be on the garbage. Okay, because it will not work properly, because monitoring is very very important over here. And record keeping, because record keeping is one of the important aspect as per the regulatory agencies. Okay, like as per the US FDA, after completion of the trial up to 5 years, we have to keep the record of each and every subject, whereas as per the EU, we have to update the records or keep the records, or sponsor, basically sponsor or PI have to keep the record up to the 25-year as per the EU. And then come to the trial design. Okay, so trial design, basically this everything comes under the protocol. So the trial design, it should contain the primary endpoint and secondary endpoint. Okay, so that endpoint is very very important. Endpoint, what endpoint says that we are doing some of the study, and in the end we'll get that particular thing. Okay, like the we discovered new chemical entity on the anti-diabetic medication. Okay, so our primary endpoint will be the HbA1c value should be lower down of any diabetic patient. Those are taking that particular new drug. Okay. Then type of study design, I'm not going to discuss in this, because that's itself a very huge topic. Okay, so basically the randomized controlled trial or RCT start from the right now to the future. Okay, we have many type of study like observational study and interventional study. Okay, under the observational study we observe the some things. Okay, like cohort study comes under the observational study, case control study comes under the observational study, whereas in an interventional study, randomized control trial, RCT, and quasi experimental design has come under the interventional study. So here, under the design of the clinical trial study, first we talk about the randomization. Okay, why the randomization is very very important, and what is the randomization? Okay, so what is the randomization? Randomization is nothing but like if any patient has come to us for the trial enrollment, so without any bias, will randomize the patient in the different group. Like suppose that we have a group and we have a B group. Okay, so any patient will come to us. Okay, so we may have one of the randomization list, or nowadays basically in a company or CRO we used to do the computer randomization. By the help of that randomization technique, patient will come, will generate computer randomization, and that computerized randomization list will assess whether patient will go for the treatment A or treatment B. Okay, sometime we blinded with it. Blinded with it means what? Is used to call single blinding, double blinding, and triple blinding. Single blinding says that the patient is not aware what medication or what treatment he or she getting. Okay, whereas in double blinding, what? The principal investigator, okay, those are doing the trial or those are performing the trial, not aware what drug they are giving to the patient, even though patient is also not aware what drug they are taking. Okay, whereas in the triple trial, the CRO, the contract research organization, as well as the PI, as well as the patient doesn't know what treatment they are getting. That's why the treatment randomization is very, very important. There will be the bias free. Okay, as you know, bias is a very, very important factor over here. Okay, so if we'll not do the randomization, then what will happen? Okay, like suppose that Dr. Bindia is the principal investigator. She's doing one trial. So her some of friend come and they wanted to enroll in the study. So what she will do? She will enroll the patient in the test drug. Okay, not in the placebo. And another person will come. Those are not she not aware about it. She will enroll in the placebo. Definitely, it will be the bias and against of the human ethics. That's why randomization is the very, very important. Apart of this, the study design come under the parallel study design and crossover study design. Okay, so we screen the patient as per the eligibility criteria. We randomized. After that, what could be designed? Whether it should be parallel or it should be the crossover. Normally, the crossover design is the gold standard for each and every clinical trial. Okay, but in case if any drug have a longest half life, okay, like 150 days, 100 days half life. Okay, so such type of patients you can't go with the crossover study. Okay, basically in parallel study, what had happened? We have a two group A and group B. Okay, in group A we'll give the treatment and group B will give the another treatment. Okay, like I used to call control and test. In control, I'll give the normal standard care, and the test group will give the interventional care. Okay, then after that we'll perform for will follow up to the 1 month, 2 month, or whatever the study duration. Then we analyze the result and we obtain the result. Whereas in the crossover, those patients were taking A treatment. Okay, after certain time of point, they will get B treatment, and the patient those who are taking the B treatment after certain time of point, they will get the treatment A. So what will happen? So it will eliminate some of the bias, like we used to call confounding bias. Okay, confounding bias means what? Basically, variabilities related to the intra-subject variabilities, because you know that uh, each and every person have a different property and variabilities. Okay, sometimes like some drug is effective on me. It's not like this. That particular drug will effective on my another person or another colleague. Okay, so that's why the interest for eliminating that variabilities, they used to propose the crossover study design, so that like previously the patient those were taking the treatment A, okay, after certain time of point they will take the treatment B, or those were taking the treatment B after certain time point they will take the treatment A. Okay, so what will happen? The same patient received the both treatment A and treatment B, so it will eliminate the intra-subject variabilities. Okay, so this is the different method like diagnosis, examination, interventional, and instrument scales and questionnaires. Okay, so this particular method, by the help of such method, we can achieve our primary endpoint. Okay, So like I'll just give example of that particular scale or questionnaires. Okay, like we give the any drug for the pruritus. Okay, so after giving that particular drug or before giving the particular drug for the antipruritus drug, will perform the assessment on the scale from 0 to 10 rating, like itching severity scale. We have one of the scale like itching severity scale 0 to 10, and will mark the severity of the itching from 0 to 10 scale. Okay, before giving the drug and after that after giving the drug. Okay, same like that quality of life assessment by the help of rent questionnaires, SF36, or health related quality of life questionnaires. Okay, before the treatment and after the treatment, we can assess the quality of life of the patient. Okay, these are the different methodology for the different type of treatment. Okay, so what could be the selection criteria for the subject? So as I said, the inclusion and exclusion criteria is very important. So in the study, or when we prepare the protocol, the subject selection criteria is must. Okay, so first of all we'll see the demographic of the subject, age, sex, and weight of the subject. Okay, basically most of clinical trial we want to perform on the 18 to 60 year of adult population. Okay, and sometimes we not initiate the trial in the pediatric population, we eliminate the pediatric population. And physiological state condition like pregnancy and lactating women, because new chemical entity might be harmful for them. Okay, then some of the disease condition, because disease and drug interaction is also very important aspect. Okay, so whenever we go for the phase 1 study, we used to select the healthy volunteers. Why healthy volunteers? Because we want to perform the PK and PD. Okay, if just suppose that in phase 1 study, if we enroll any patient, those are suffering with the renal disorder. Okay, then what will happen? Definitely the subject's inter-subject variability come, because patient is suffering with the renal disorder. We can't get the proper ADMAs of the particular patient. Yes. Okay. So like that's why that particular criteria is very important. Okay. Like non-drug factor diet and habits. Okay. Like if any patient are taking some of the habitual drug, okay, like barbiturates or something else. Okay, so it may directly affect the drug by the affecting the cytochrome P450 enzyme. Okay, which is basically responsible for the first pass metabolism. Okay, then concomitant disease, concomitant drug, hypersensitivity of the drug. Sometimes patient may have a hypersensitivity or allergic reaction related to the chemical entities. So we look all this aspect, and after that we set the selection criteria for the subject. Okay, this is one example for malaria trial. This is just example. We select the patient age more than 16 year of age. Okay, and with the confirmatory test of the, like whether patient have a malaria or not. Okay, so like confirmatory test with the microscopic confirmation of the Plasmodium falciparum. Okay, if any patient have a confirmatory test with the Plasmodium falciparum, then we'll select the patient in the trial. Okay, with the particular parasite count rate between the 1,000 to 2 lakh micro. Okay, and written consent is very important. Consent means what? Willingness of the patient to enroll in the trial. If the patient willingness will not be there, you can't enroll any patient in the trial. Uh, Dr. Bindik, can you say how much time I have remained?
Another 10 minutes, sir.
I might be not able to cover the ICF. I think so. Okay, so I'm just going faster.
Maximum the 15 minutes can be present. After that, we will have a 5-minute session for the discussion round.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
So yeah. So as I said in the selection criteria, most of the time we eliminate the pregnancy and lactating women, or such type patient with the renal or hepatic problem or other problems. Okay, so just these are the important time points. Like we used to whether what we want to assess whether we want to assess the prevalence, incidence, or survival rate of the patient, or we want to check the quality of life of the patient after the as a endpoint of our study. Yeah, definitely the endpoint might be the differ, depend upon the condition, depend upon the treatment, and depend upon the indication for the new chemical entities. Okay, so I'm just skipping that because as we have a short time. Okay, so as I said, we have a efficacy endpoint. Okay, so there are one example efficacy endpoint like 28 days cure rate. Okay, parasite clearance, and safety endpoints related to the adverse event I was discussing when I was in talking about the clinical trial. So safety endpoint is also very very important. Like what could be the adverse drug reaction related to the chemical entities or investigational product, clinical examination, laboratory test report, and special tests like ECG, liver biopsy, and psychometric test. Okay, these are the study chart like when we have to perform the study. Okay, what could be the different visit between the study. Okay, so such type of flow chart we used to prepare for the any studies. Okay, so always the protocol should be a well written protocol. Ensure that its magnitude relevant to the research question and accepted the expectable for the publication, then your protocol will be good and sound. Okay, the another talk is very very important about the informed consent procedure. Okay, what is the informed consent? Okay, informed consent is nothing but it's a consent whether you want to enroll in the study or not. Okay, as we were talking about the Nuremberg Code or Nuremberg trial, what had happened over there? Nazis didn't ask any consent to the patient. Simply they enroll the patient. Simply they used to give the different chemical or drugs to the patient, and because of this, many patient has died. Same thing had happened with the Tuskegee study. Okay, the patient those were suffering with the leprosy. Okay, they used to give they not enroll them properly without asking their consent. Okay, so what is the informed consent process? Over here, that informed consent basically deal with the human ethics. Human ethics is very, very important. Each and every guideline from the ICHGCP, from Belmont report, Nuremberg Code, or New City Rule of India, or Schedule Y guideline, everyone talks about the human ethics or informed consent process. Okay, so what is the consent? Consent is the foundation of any research. Okay, the right, safety, and well-being of the trial subject are the most important consideration and should be prevail over the interest of science and society. That is the as per the ICHGCP Principle 2.3. Okay, so informed consent is a process by which the subject, okay, voluntarily confirm his or her willingness to participate in the particular trial. Okay, means if they wanted to enroll in the trial, their willingness is must and important. Okay. After having been informed of all aspects of the trial that are relevant to the subject decision to participate in the trial. Okay. And willingness should not be like this कि हाँ भाई मैंने बोल दिया चलो मैं enroll हो रहा हूँ trial में. It's not like this. It should be written, signed and dated. Okay, every time the informed consent procedure, or if we wanted to enroll any patient in the our trial. Okay, so first of all we have to ask their willingness with their written sign and signature with date. In case patient is illiterate, so we require the thumb impression of the patient and signature of their LAR, legal advisory representative. Okay, I'll just discuss about the LAR too. Okay, so there are some other informed consent challenge that information related to the accuracy, relevant, and extent. It should be comprehensive related to the language. Yes, one more important aspect over here. Whenever we prepare the informed consent form, it should be in the layman language. It should not be in the scientific terminology. What is the scientific terminology? Okay, like simple thing everyone knows about the hypertension. Yes or no? Yeah. What is the hypertension? Is the elevated blood pressure. Okay, so most of the time patient doesn't know what is the hypertension, patient doesn't know what is the diabetes mellitus. Okay, so that time we have to write in the layman language: hypertension, high blood pressure. Okay, diabetes mellitus, sugar. Okay, such type of layman word we have to use when we are going to prepare the informed consent, because that particular informed consent will be read by the patient and then signed or give with, and then signed by the patient with their particular date or thumb impression. Okay, so over here whenever we prepare the informed consent, okay, we have some of the important element, okay, that explain the purpose of the research, why we are doing that research, what is the purpose of research. Okay, this first point we enroll, then after that expected duration for the subject participation, whether 1 month, 2 month or 3 month or whatever. Okay, then procedure to follow, what procedure we are going to follow. Okay, any reasonable feasibility, risk or discomfort for the patient. Okay, any risk, like we are giving any new chemical entity to the patient, so what could be the associated risk. Sometimes we have to write like this: okay, you might be die, or if you are taking that particular medication, okay, you might suffer with the QT prolongation or another problem, or heart related disease or kidney failure or something like this. Whatever is disease risk, that we have to explain in the informed consent. Any benefit to the subject, what could be the benefit to the subject, like subject will participate, they will get the treatment free of, without any cost. Okay, they will get better treatment, everything we have to mention. Then confidentiality of the record. Okay, confidentiality is a very very important aspect related to the patient. Why? Because just to think that still in India, that leprosy and HIV is the one of the dilemma. Okay, we think like this: any patient is suffering with the HIV or leprosy, so we maintain the distance with them. So it's such type of condition, patient want to maintain the confidentiality of that record. Okay, they don't want to like publish the things that like they are suffering with, what type of disease condition and what are their suffering. Then prior treatment schedule and randomization. Okay, then what could be the compensation? Compensation is a very, very important aspect here when we enroll the patient. Compensation related during the trial, if the patient is taking any medication, or during the trial or during the treatment, if patient is died, so what could be the compensation? Or not died, if the patient may enroll in the hospital due to the any adverse reaction. So what could be the compensation? Basically, in India or US or Europe, the compensation has been decided by the IRB or IEC, Institutional Ethics Committee. In US, that is the decided by the IRB, Institutional Review Board. In India, we have only one hospital, that is the Tata Memorial Hospital, Mumbai, which have a IRB. Okay, IRB is nothing but this the particular group of scientific uh, doctors or scientists, okay, who decide about any clinical trial. Okay, but in US the IRB is in highlight, where in India we have a IEC, Institutional Ethics Committee, rather than IRBs. Okay, then content of the trial related queries. Okay, related to the right and injury of the subject, any payment which will give to the patient. Okay, payment related, like when you will visit for the to the hospital, so what could be the payment? Okay, it may include DA or TA for the particular subject. That payment, what, how much payment you are going to give to the subject, that information should be there. And after the subject responsibility, if any subject or any patient enrolling in the study, so what is their responsibility? They should not hide, like responsibility basically we used to write, patient should not hide the previous history, or if they are participating in another clinical trial. Okay, or any relevant information which they are hiding to us. Okay, then subject right to withdraw without lose of benefit. Okay, over here in the informed consent we also have to mention like this: if subject have any problem, so at any time they can withdraw from the study without losing their standard care or future benefit. Okay, that is the complete decision of the subject whether they want to continue in the study or not, or any other information. Okay, these all things we have to enroll in the study. Some of the additional elements over here, like circumstances or termination of the study participation. Okay, sometimes we also used to call discontinuation criteria for the study participation. Okay, you are taking some of the study drug, but you suffer with any age or under the as per the discretion of the principal investigator or doctor, this is not in your goodwill to continue the treatment sometimes. So like this they can also eliminate out from the study. Okay, so such type of information we should mention in the informed consent form. Risk to the subject or fetus, and approximately number of the subject, like how many subject going to enroll for the particular study. These all things we should incorporate in the informed consent form, which we are going to give to the patient for their willingness or write written informed consent. Okay, so here I used one word, legally acceptable representative. Okay, that particular legally acceptable representative is an individual or judicial or other body authorized under the application law to consent on behalf of prospective subject to the subject participator in the clinical trial as per the ICH GCP principle. Okay, the thing is that, like as I said, we need the consent of the patient with their sign and signature. Okay, if the patient is illiterate, patient is not able to give the signature, then डेफिनेटली वी रिक्वायर देयर थंब इम्प्रेशन. बट ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता ना कि भाई उसको बोल दिया थंब इम्प्रेशन दे दो, पेशेंट इज इलिटरेट, he might not be able to read the complete document informed consent form or patient information sheet. Okay, so again it will be the against of ethics or illegal. Okay, so that's why legally advisory representative will be there. Okay, that LAR might be the like any patient is there, patient's son, daughter, or wife, anybody could be the LAR. Okay, but in case LAR is also literate, patient is illiterate, LAR is also literate. So some that time the impartial witness has come. Impartial witness is the person those who doesn't have any like a conflict of interest with the patient or with the doctor or principal investigator. So impartial witness is the person who is independent for the trial, who cannot unfairly influenced by the people involved in the trial. Okay, so the person जिसका दोनों से कोई लेना देना नहीं है, ना तो प्रिंसिपल इन्वेस्टिगेटर से लेना देना है, ना तो सब्जेक्ट से लेना देना. Such type of person will be present over there, and under the presence of impartial witness, all the informed consent procedure will be done, and signature of the impartial witness with the date will be taken in the informed consent form. Okay, so this is an informed consent document, okay, which I already explained to you. Okay, another thing has come, vulnerable subject to whom we cannot enroll in the study. Okay, like I am the principal investigator, so who could be the vulnerable subject for me? My staff is the vulnerable subject. Okay, why? क्योंकि भाई मैं प्रिंसिपल इन्वेस्टिगेटर हूँ, मेरा स्टाफ मेरे अंडर में वर्क कर रहा है, so I can't enroll our staff in the trial. A part of the staff, okay, some of the minors, students, employees, okay, those are working under the person, prisoners, okay, this all come under the vulnerable population. So that is the definition of vulnerable population. The individual who is willing to volunteer in the clinical trial may be unduly influenced by the explanation whether the justification or not of benefit associated with the participation or of uh, retaliatory response from the senior member of the jury in case of refusal to the participate. Okay, so that is a different process, reconsenting, informed consenting. Yes, that is the one important aspect over there. AV consenting, as per the new CT rule of India, new clinical trial rule of India, AV consenting has introduced recently because in 2015 lots of unethical practice had happened in India. Okay, because of the two site of India which is stabilized in the Indore, has banned and blacklisted for the clinical trial because they not took consent properly from the patient, and they enrolled without asking their consent. Doctor said, you just sign in that paper and enroll in the study. Many patients was not aware what happening with them. Okay, so that was the illegal process. Because of that, our government of India introduced the AV consenting. Okay, so what is the AV consenting? Basically, that AV consenting is the vulnerable population. Yes, poor also come under the vulnerable population. Poor person, those doesn't have a money, they also come under the vulnerable population. So that like audio video consenting is the recording of the informed consent process. Okay, like if the doctor like over here, what had happened, recording, they started the recording, and patient will sit and the principal investigator sit. Then principal investigator will explain each and every aspect about the trial, what will happen, what not happen, that point which we discussed previously. Every point he will explain to the subject, okay, in front of camera, and that recording will be there, and that recording they have to submit to the DCGI regulatory authority of India. That is the AV consenting process. So this is the format of the informed consent form. It contains the subject title, number, subject initials, like my name is Ashish Singh Parihar, so my initial could be around like ASP. Then complete full name, date of birth, okay, address of the subject, could be the qualification, occupation, and other relevant information. And as per the new city rule of India, this 5 points must be necessary, okay, for any patient. Okay, so that is the patient declaration in the informed consent form. So patient says like that, I confirm that I have read and understood the informed consent sheet, particular dated, okay, and opportunity to ask question. And then second point, I understand that my participation is totally volunteer and free from withdrawal, okay, for any reason without any medical care or legal right being affected. Third point, I understand that the sponsor of the clinical trial, other working on the sponsor behalf, the ethics committee and regulatory authority will not need my permission to look my record. Okay, I agree to allow them to access the record, the regulatory agency and ethics committee. The fourth point, I agree not to restrict the use of any of the data result for the publication. And last point, and I agree to take part in the above study. Okay, so these 5 points is the very, very important as per the new city rule of India. If that 5 point is not signed or dated by the patient, so such patient we can't enroll in the study. So with this, there are lots of things are there, as we are we have a short of time. That's why I'm not discussing with this. Okay, these are the bibliography of the my presentation. I collected this all the information from the ICH GCP 6R2 New Clinical Trial Rule of India and Dr. Arun Bhatt presentation. Thank you. If anybody have any question, you can ask.
Yes, thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us on such an informative presentation on the clinical trial and the medical writing in the guidelines. In this, you have provided the information on the various different stages of the clinical trials and the medical writing, the different type of the documents enrolled during the study, and how much the main rights of the participant in the clinical trials, like especially in the vulnerable population. And you have also provided information on the informed consent form, information on the updated clinical trials and guidelines. So thank you so much, sir. It was a very informative session. If anybody having any doubt or any question, if anybody having any doubt, you guys can write in the chat box also.
Yes, good evening, sir. I am Dr. Vivek, working as associate professor over here.
Yes,
I hope I am audible. Sir,
yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, yes. Sir, my question is from the corona vaccine actually. That
Okay,
how
sir.
the launch of corona vaccine has been possible within the short span of 9 months. As such, clinical
Sir,
trial takes months or years. Years, I should say, not months. But in case of corona vaccine, it has been months.
yes,
So,
sir.
yes, sir.
Uh, Actually, sir, for the corona vaccine, that something is different. You might heard about the emergency approval of the trial. Yes. Okay. So, corona vaccine is comes under the biologicals. Okay. So there is a total difference with the biologicals and normal drug. So what had happened? As per the emergency, most of regulatory agency they performed the initial toxicological studies, and after that they started the clinical trial or research for on the vaccination. So currently they require the vaccines. Because of this, most of drug got the emergency authorized approval from the regulatory authority of the particular country. But they have submitted certain reports. Then after that, they got approval for the presentation. But definitely, it took a long time. Okay, but vaccine is comes under the biological, so it has a different regulations rather than the new chemical entity or medication.
Because what I saw, sir, that they were launched after conducting clinical trial phase 2 only. So third phase is
Yes,
still going on.
yes, it's
In the
still
news, we
going
can
on.
hear that today the
Yeah,
third phase
as
has
I
been
said,
started in
they,
India.
they received only the emergency authorized approval. Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Anybody else having any question or doubt?
Yes, ma'am. Can I?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure, madam.
Yes. Yes, sir, it's a very nice informative session. My
Thank you.
question is, what about the nutraceutical products? If we develop the one formulation which increase the hemoglobin,
Yes, ma'am.
then
About the nutraceuticals, like still in India, we are suffering with this particular problem. Like our regulatory authority, regulatory agency is not enough stabilized. Most of company are preparing the nutraceuticals without performing any clinical trial, and they're marketing it properly. Okay, same this like most of I gone through this, like you might heard about the Herbalife. Okay,
yes,
Herbalife is the one of the nutraceutical product, and it's not approved itself in the US, but they are marketing in India due to our weak regulatory authority. Our regulatory authority not released any guideline related to the nutraceuticals. Like if you want to launch, if anybody want to launch the nutraceuticals, simply they got approval from the that like if that FDSCO somehow ISO. Okay, they certified itself in the ISO and they marketed it. Okay, but due to the regulatory authority, it's a problematic. Definitely, it's a problematic. Uh, as I know, that Herbalife is itself banned in the US because they are not allowing to market. So they targeted in India and they are marketing over here. Okay, not only that Herbalife, lots of products are there in the market. Those are selling without any approval from the regulatory authority. So this is the that problem of the regulatory agency of India.
okay, sir. So if we launch one product, or if we are preparing any formulation, so how
Hmm.
can we go for evaluation of that?
That particular test you have to publish, and then ISO and different agencies are there. Exactly.
Okay, sir. So can we go for the group testing, sir? Suppose it's a hematonic product. So can we give them in a groups for comparison?
Okay, but the thing is that it should be harmless, and the preclinical study data should be there.
Sir, if there is a data, then why we have to go for the research?
No, so you can't go for the human research. First
Okay.
of all, you have to go with the animal research. You have to submit that to the regulatory agency. Then they will go through this particular data. Then you can proceed for the human research.
Okay. Okay, fine, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. In case if anybody having any question or you kindly write down in the chat box, and we will try to contact you again. Because with the shortage of time, so here I would like to thank you, sir. It was a
Thank
very
you.
informative session. As a token of appreciation, we would like to facilitate you with the e-certificate on behalf of the Parul University.
Thank you.
Sir, now with your permission, I would like to share my screen to present you the certificate.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. It is the e-certificate from the Parul University side. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
It was a very valuable session we had it, sir.